Greetings once again, fellow modelers, and welcome. How you doing? I'm not going to say I got a lot to show you. All I'm going to tell you is there's some modeling in here, there's some prop making, and I show some mechanic work and some electrical work, and my reason for showing that is to show my friends why I'm behind on their projects. This has been the spring and summer of repairing everything. I've had to repair the roof, I've had to fix the garbage disposal, fix the plumbing, fix the air conditioning system, work on both cars, work on the lawnmower, rebuild the lawnmower engine, etc., etc., etc. So, if I'm behind on something for you, you know why. You will see. Now, I've also included Jeff Wehenkle's movie, a movie that I made for Jeff on the buildup of his moon truck. He supplied the pictures and told me briefly how he did it, where he got the references, etc. If you've seen the movie Moon, this is the truck that you see in that movie. Jeff scratch built that, and I made that movie a couple of weeks ago, and I incorporated that into this movie just because I thought it was great. Great job on the model. Awesome. Also, at the end of the movie is an extended series of credits. Now, I often thank everybody that helps me, everybody that's backed me, my friends and associates, you name it. I appreciate the people that have my back, and I appreciate the people that have been decent to me and treat me fairly. So there's a long list of credits, and if your name's not on there, I apologize, because I tried to remember everybody. Now, I've had a little trouble with the compositing software again, so right now the video that I'm making for this intro is already running. As soon as that gets done, I've got to go back, re-edit it, add this introduction and a couple of other things because the software has been acting goofy and did not want to work right. At any rate, here's one thing that I haven't got to yet, but I'm going to be finishing this up. This is something that I like to do every once in a while. And what I do is I take thrift store clocks like this. As you see, this was green at one point. And I use the Coke red and white. And what I'm going to make is a Nuka-Cola clock, which I've done before, and or another some type of Fallout clock, and then sell that on eBay as a fan-made fan prop. So, there's that. Now, I picked up these fluorescent paints, which I showed in another movie, for about $3 or $4, so you can probably get them anywhere between $3 and $6. I got these at Walmart, and they're great fun to do blacklight projects with. This is the base of the Spock diorama, which you will see in the video, and I even show it under a UV light. I'm going to be doing some more to this in the future. Here's the original clock face, ta-da, ta-da, and as you can see, perfect fit. Alrighty then, now I've got a lot of things that I can't show you right now because my friend asked me not to, and I have to respect his opinion and his wishes, but there are some interesting things coming up that you will see later at a later date. Now, as far as refit and original series stuff, there is very little in this movie as far as the build-ups that I'm doing, simply because once again I've got too much video. The last video was an hour long, which really turned a lot of people off. I got emails and comments about it being too long. So this movie's shorter, but there's another movie within the next week or so, I hope, unless something else major breaks down. At any rate, let's get to it. Well, here it is, the 1/120th scale bridge and BC deck. I've got just a little shadow of a seam here I've got to get rid of. Got to clean up the windows and the details. All the lines are smooth. The only problem I've got is back here right at the windows. as soon as I get everything else done, I'm going to clean up the windows. Then I'm going to get this bad boy ready to make a mold of. Now, I haven't gone any further on the floor plan that goes up underneath just yet, because I want to get this 100%. And it's getting there, slowly but surely. I cannot wait to get this done. This has been a long and tedious process, but it's going to pay off in the end. I've already got several people that are really interested in getting kits of these, and since I'm kind of on a time crunch, next week I'm going to be having, well, by the time you see this it'll already be done, I'm going to be having the travel pod prototyped, and I'm working on a Vulcan shuttle. I've also got probably, I don't know, maybe 6 work bees I'm going to have prototyped. I built one by hand, and frankly I just don't have the time to handcraft 6 1/20th scale work bees. And here are a couple more parts that Professor Schrodinger the cat got a hold of, and we found them underneath the recliner. That's one of the parts off of the Mars Attacks Martian, and one of the parts off of the MPC Slave 1. By the way, here's another little tip. These little refrigerator magnets make for great tools to keep your blades for your X-Acto together. That way they don't slip and slide all over your box or what have you. Anyway, so there we go on the 1/20th scale bridge and BC deck. Ooh. Here's a little something that my good friend Elliot Brown made up for me. He knew that I was in a bind, I was way behind, and I was in need. So, I didn't have time to burn new brass, and said so in the last movie, or 2 movies ago, I don't know. Anyway, Elliot offered to go ahead and burn some brass for me while I worked on other things, as if there isn't plenty to work on. So I sent him the patterns that my good friend Big Jim Slade made up years ago, and he went ahead and made me up some windows and some impulse engine grills. Woohoo! So now I've already got a fully decaled and ready to go impulse engine, but this is going to look so much cooler. I'm going to have to make a new impulse engine for Lance's refit. Oh no! Here's another look at the brass that my good friend Elliot made up for me. Got to brag on Elliot's work there. Thanks again, Elliot, and thanks Big Jim Slade for the vector art pattern. Now, I've got at least 6 usable patterns on there, so I'm thinking I could do 3 complete models, which is exactly how many I've got in the works right now. Now that's going to look really good with the orangish red light behind it on the refit that I'm building for Lance, the dreadnought that I'm doing for Scott, and the refit that I'm building for Big Jim Slade. There we go. Now I don't need to black out the windows, so I'm going to use those as they are. I'm going to backfill them with PETG, and I'm going to use the PETG windows that I made for the inside of the shuttle bay. So we'll see that in a later movie. Here's the Spock diorama that I've got a little bit of work done on. I've prepped everything with 2 different coats of gray. I've drilled out a hole here that perfectly matches the hole in the boot, which is where I'm going to run fiber optics up through his leg. Now this is just for the phaser. I still haven't decided what color to go with on the phaser. I've also drilled out holes in the main bodies of all the snake heads so that I can light their eyes green or red or orange or whatever I end up deciding. Still haven't decided on that either. Glued all the sub-assemblies together. Got the body done. All I got to do is scrape off a little bit of the primer and attach the arm, I've still got to take a Dremel and cut notches into the phaser halves so that I can run fiber optic. That's not going to be a big deal, but I did want to show a little on this. I'm going to try to stick with one model at a time and show some progress here and there while I work on the major contracts. Maybe a little bit more on this later. I might sit down and do some paint work on this while I'm watching the boob tube. Alright, I've got a little more work done on the Mr. Spock figure. I sat while I was watching Sherlock Holmes and took out the multicolored fluorescent paints and started painting the base in different colors. I've done all the primer on the main bodies, and I've drilled all the holes for fiber optics, though I haven't really decided 100% where I'm going just yet. But I did want to show this, and I'm going to turn out the lights and do it under a UV light so you can get a good look at what the reactive paints are going to look like. Now I'm also going to detail this in acrylics, and I'm going to add diorama grass and trees and brush and whatnot. So I'm going to really spruce this up a little bit at a time. I'm not in a rush to get it done, so I want to take my time and do it right. I also hope to, maybe in the next movie, get a look at the progress that's been made on the Mars Attacks Martian. And here we are in the dark. Woo! Alright, we're going to have a look at the reactive paint on this Mr. Spock base. Whoa! Look at that as it comes into focus. Nice! Now, I'm going to add some more diorama material, the light green grass, etc. And I'm going to try to make it look like a halfway decent alien diorama and be reactive to blacklight. So, can't wait to see this done, especially with the phaser beam coming out of the phaser and the voice box that says, "Captain, we seem to have a problem." Fascinating. What you see here are the basic forms that we're taking from, 3 different CG models, along with some modification that I made personally in a program called Metasequoia. I sized and scaled a CG Nomad up to the proper size after doing a measurement study on the entire Nomad, which I posted on Facebook. So if you don't see this, you should friend me on Facebook, because it's not going to be in the video. But I went for about a month researching every aspect of this before I started production, with one exception. I think I spoke to that earlier. At any rate, these are simple cardstock forms that were unfolded from a low poly CG model, exported in the right scale, unfolded, printed, and then folded and glued back together. So here we are with the paper to plastic project number 47-D, the Nomad, the 1:1 scale studio accurate Nomad from paper to plastic. I'm going to do this just like I did the Iron Man, like I did the 350th original series ship that I scratch built, like I did the Cylon head. I'm going to use these paper forms to create fiberglass solid parts. Now I'm going to go ahead and stack these parts up so they make sense to show you what I'm on about. And there you have it. These are the main parts of the head of the Nomad, just stacked on top of each other, so anybody with a halfway decent eye for detail can see that the size and scale are right on the mark. Now, once I fiberglass each one of these pieces individually, I can begin cutting, cleaning, sanding, painting, priming, and assembling all these parts into one big section. This is the main top of the Nomad, and all it is paper, tape, glue, fiberglass, and Bondo. just like before. So never let anybody tell you the way you're doing something is wrong, because there's more than one way to skin a Nomad. Well, look at here. Here we have some more accurate 1/6 scale precision laser cut work. Now, once again, that pattern on the right is wrong. That's the pattern that came off the blueprints that are not accurate. These two patterns are the patterns that came off of my research and my work, and thanks to the vector art of Bill Perry. Thank you, Bill. Here is, well, you can figure out what that's going to be, can't you? And this is, yep, yet another paper to plastic item. This is going to be the first 1/6 scale mock-up of the anti-gravity unit that was used to grab Nomad and beam him out to space. So we'll be seeing more of this sometime in the future. Anyway, there you go. Accurate versus inaccurate. Now here's a little something I had in the garage that I had a friend of mine send me for another project, and I had more than enough. So I've got some of this 18 gauge aluminum that I'm going to have cut with a water jet from hack manufacturers, using the same vector art used to create the acrylic piece that you see there. I've got a 2 foot by 4 foot section, so I've got more than enough. All I've got to do is have this laser cut, go over it with an orbital sander, and then polish it back out. So I'm thinking this is going to be a really nice little bit of accurate material going into an accurate studio scale model. Here we are yet again with yet another project that stopped me dead in my tracks from doing what I need to do on modeling jobs and build-ups and everything else. This is the head off of 19.5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine. It's barely got 4 years and it's been maintained, and I had to take it off because it had a sticky valve, a bent push rod, and was running like crap, rattling and knocking and shaking every time it got under a load. So here I am working on this. Anybody that I'm doing jobs for, that I'm working for, here's why I haven't got anything done for a week. I've had to pull this all apart, wait a day to order the parts, wait 3 days for the parts to get here, and in the meantime had to try to weed whip and keep up with everything else. At any rate, yet another friggin' job that stopped me dead in my tracks. And here we have the cylinder, which you can see I've thoroughly cleaned up. I've got to pop the gasket off, no big deal. Then I got to clean all that surface up, put the new gasket on, and bolt everything back together. So yeah, here we are again, 100-degree heat, 60 to 80% humidity, working on yet another friggin' project. Don't you just love it? Well, at least I'm saving a whole bunch of money having to do all these repairs, but it stops me dead in my tracks from doing anything else. Oh well, such is life. I've just placed a new head gasket over the pins, and as you can see, the cylinder is as clean as almost brand new. The cylinder, the piston, and everything involved is clean, clean, clean. When rebuilding an engine like this, cleanliness is next to godliness. All this precision stuff has to be clean and well lubricated. Alright, I'm not going to go into every step here. I'm going to place the head on, then put the push rods in, then start torquing everything down. The engine's all back together, all the housing and everything, the hood's back on it, everything's looking good, running like a Singer sewing machine. I've cleaned off the deck and put everything back together. All I have to do now is grease the front end and check all the clevis pins underneath. Drop the deck and change the blades, the cutting blades. I'm going to have to pull both of them off and send them down to the shop. So that's where I'm at on this. It's all good to go, done and done. Now I've got 3 days worth of cutting grass and weed whipping to catch up while this was down and it continued to rain. Oh well, such is life. This is the original fan motor for the condenser, technically referred to as the condenser fan motor. You may want to know that, because if you go to look for a replacement part, you're going to have to get the name right, or you're going to be looking for the wrong thing. You'll end up with a squirrel cage motor that goes inside the A coil, and you don't need that. This is just for the condenser. Now, this is the replacement motor, and it comes with its own mounting hardware. So you really don't need these old cap screws or cap nuts that came with the original motor. We're not going to use them, but you might want to keep them for something else in the future. These are the mounting screws that are used with nut drivers or a screwdriver, but preferably with a nut driver because you get a better grip on the actual screw. These are for the mounting plate that the motor came off of. Now what we've got here is we've got 3 wires and a clip. You want to save that clip and use that clip. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the wires off above the clip, leave enough room to splice in some new wire for the new motor and wire nuts, and then tape each one with black electrical tape. Now I test fit the fan onto the shaft of the motor just to be sure that I had the right diameter on the shaft, because if you've got the wrong diameter or a shaft that's way too long, it's just not going to work with 100% efficiency. As you can see here, I'm going to have to raise this up and lock it with this locking screw or bolt to get it in the right position. So what I want to do is I want to look at the old shaft and see right there where that bolt screwed through the fan motor collar, or the fan collar, and attached at that point. Okay, that's exactly the height that I want this fan motor to be, to make sure that it clears those studs. And I'm going to go ahead and cut those studs off shorter, so I make sure that there's clearance between the fan motor and the fan, because if you don't, you're going to be doing double the work. Okay, I've put the wire nuts on each one of the wires. Now I'm going to take the good black electrical tape and I'm going to very carefully and tightly wrap each one of these. This is the original connector. That way all I've got to do is snap it into the existing connector that goes down to the compressor, etc. Test this, and if it's rotating the right way, I'm done. If it's not, I've got to pull it back off, switch the polarity, put it back together, and then finally be done with it. All right, the fan's running, the AC's working, the rotation's in the proper direction, it's cooling the house. Now that I'm done, it's time to take a break and cool off, because I've got about a week's worth of lawn care to do now. So I'm going to take a break and get started on that in the next day or so.